Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Flag the flag.
I'll go first. You okay? Okay, roll call, please.
Sorry. Mr. Chrisman.
Here.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Here.
Ms. Franz.
Here.
Ms. Husak. Here. Mr. Kern.
Here.
Ms. Culp.
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Just note everyone that this meeting is in fact being recorded and streamed live. Any public comment?
No one has signed up for public comment.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have an extra pen? No. Okay, you've all received copies of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes for the January 3rd meeting?
So here?
Second. Second, thank you. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no? Oh, I got pens all over, and so ordered. Special board reports, CLIU. Mrs. Beck.
Thank you. We did have our January board meeting. It was January 29th, this past January. Had a couple things to go over. Just wanted to report that a lot of times our legislative team of Lehigh County and Carbon County, they come out, see our classrooms, and on December 20th, we did have one of our state representatives, Doyle Heffley, who attended our Carbon County Early Learning Center in Lehigh. It was a great opportunity for us to showcase our early intervention program and discuss the critical needs for that funding. We do thank our legislators that are out there, state representatives. It is fantastic to see them come out and see our students and our staff in our buildings to see what's going on, what's needed, and to allow us to share what we would like to see happen. So thank you to State Representative Doyle Heffley for joining us. We also had a completion of our 23-24 audit report. I am happy to report that the audit was received as a clean opinion with no findings. Again, financial management at the IU is fantastic, so I want to thank that group for continuing to keep us as representatives with that information, as well as our districts in good standing. We also will have on the budget, or on the agenda this evening, our budget. Again, no change for that general operating budget for the contributions. Also, there is the opening for the IU representative again for our board to go onto their board. So glad to continue on if that is the choice of our board. And then the last thing, I want to thank our technical schools, both at LCTI and CCTI. On December 3rd, one of the really fun things that our collective students come to do is they do what they call Toy Adaptive Day. So on December 3rd, we did host that toy adaption event, which includes allowing students from our LCTI or CCTI programs to come in, wire different switches for toys that our special needs students can use to feel a part of that same fun and excitement when they might be able to open up a present at home and be able to turn it on by hitting a switch. So it's a fantastic experience for them to partake in that and to share and to show how we can adapt so these students can feel the same joy that we all can during the holidays and moving forward. So they are available. If anybody is in need of any of those, feel free to reach out to the IU they can make sure that we get in touch to have those switches available. We do have a meeting, our next meeting in February. We blank out in February because of the holiday, so our next meeting will be in March. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Pedocha?
Thank you. Yes, on January 22nd, we held our Skills Olympics, and that is a place in which our students compete with other 5 school districts in our area, our vocational schools in our area. It's a great event. It's held at the Ag Hall, and our students at this point are competing with the other students to get district competition entitlement. And if they win in that area, they move on to the states, and then of course when that is completed, we move on into the national. We've had a number of our students who went on to national competitions over the years from LCTI, but also from Northern Lehigh. And I know there's a number of students going this year to states, and I'm going to refer to Dr. Link's superintendent report to give an update on those students. The other thing is we had our budget presentation done. Our budget has changed a little bit, particularly in Northern Lehigh. Our numbers have changed because we're sending more students, which is a good thing, I believe. We also are sending students to the academic center, which we have not done for a number of years. So that does put a change, but there's not a significant change in the budget. And that budget presentation that we will be doing today in our meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to adopt the LCTI budget. We are hiring another security guard at LCTI. We really have a large facility. I don't know if everyone is aware of what kind of facility we have grown into, but we are certainly one of the largest in the country. We are the largest in the state, and our numbers of our students are growing constantly, so we are in need of another school security officer. We're also going into negotiations with our support staff. We're just beginning that, and that certainly is a process that every school district goes through, so that's something that LCTI is going through. The one thing that is nice about the LCTI negotiations, when it comes to the benefits and salaries, we have a part of the negotiations and part of the contract is that those numbers are always looked at by the average of the 9 school districts. So really, we don't have a lot of time, or we do not spend a lot of time in negotiating salaries and benefits, because they basically come automatic by the other school districts. And finally, we always have a public auction for supplies items, and that auction will be held again this year. The date I don't have in front of me right now, but if anybody is interested, we can get it to them. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Snyder, anything for us this evening?
Just last week, Governor Shapiro had delivered his 3rd budget address, and I think Sherry's going to talk more about that, so we'll leave that to her. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Down at Lehigh Carbon Community College, our head count continues to dwindle. Our number of credit hours continue to dwindle, as I think is a problem in a lot of different educational institutions, not only in this area, but throughout our country. We made a request to Governor when you're talking about the governor's budget for X number of dollars, and even in his initial presentation, he didn't come up with enough money that we were asking for. So that's another kind of not so good thing. I guess the only good thing I can say is our budget this year is exactly the same as last year for the participating districts amount. We upped our tuition a bit, and we're getting some other kind of things on the side that were generating money, but the amount of contribution from the district stayed the same overall. Ours dropped a little because our enrollment has been down a little bit, so we're saving, I don't know, what's it like, $8,000 or something. You'll have our budget later on in the meeting, and that's all I have. You have some committee report there for your review. And now the big, here we go.
Hello everyone, it's nice to see you all again. Tonight, Olivia and I will be reporting about various upcoming events in the high school. For the past 2 years, Student Council has been gathering during the month of January and February to decorate Valentine's Day cards for the people at the Fellowship Retirement Community. This week, on Thursday the 13th, a select few council members will take a trip to deliver these cards in person. The citizens of the community really enjoy seeing our students and the kind messages that they leave. Prom tickets are being sold in the high school lobby all throughout the month of February. Penn State is planning to visit the high school on February 12th to conduct an admissions workshop for any seniors that are interested. The National Honor Society induction ceremony was held on January 30th. A total of 35 members were inducted that night. We are so excited to see this club continue to grow. Seniors Michaela Gordon and Matthew McCarty represented Northern Lehigh at the Lehigh Valley Soccer Scholar Athlete Ceremony. Congratulations to the both of them. That is all I have for tonight, and now I'll pass the floor off to Olivia.
Good evening, everyone.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I will be covering the sports report for tonight. So, girls basketball are 5 in leagues and in districts. Boys basketball is in districts. They play again on February the 22nd. Wrestling has a district meet on the 22nd and the 21st and the 22nd of February. Our 4 girl wrestlers have a district tournament on February the 16th. There will be a track informational meeting held in the high school auditorium after school on February 10th, so today. For anyone interested in joining this spring, spring sports begin the 3rd of March, and then winter award night will also be held on the 3rd of March. And that is all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the ladies?
No, it's great that the girls wrestling folks are meeting to do it districts. That's terrific.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you both. You are welcome to stay for the entirety of the meeting, and you are also welcome to excuse yourself. Thank you both.
Speak now. Solicitor's report, Attorney Riddick.
Yes, just a couple of things. We are now back to the 2020 Title IX regulations. The 2024 regulations were no longer in effect starting February 1st of 2025. Most of the districts were in the process of revising their Title IX regulations and policy. We pumped the brakes because we kind of anticipated this was coming. So I just urge you to double check your policy to make sure that you are they're compliant with the 2020 regulations and not the 2024 regulations. So anything that comes in now, you have to follow the 2020 regulations. For investigations that occurred under the 2024 regulations, you don't need to reopen them. But if it started and not finished, if you started them under the 2024 and it's not completed, you have to switch over to the 2020 regulations for completion. In addition, there's been a flurry of executive orders that have been coming down from the new president's administration. Some are directly impacting the district. We have been in communication with administration and providing them with updates for direct impact. Others are not directly impacting public schools, but many of the executive orders require individuals and reports to be made to the president or his designee within a certain time frame. Once that occurs, we anticipate guidance coming down, and that guidance may impact some school district operations. So our firm's continuing to keep our clients apprised on that, and we'll continue to do so because it is still a moving target. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Stoker.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I'm actually going to start with the second item first. Our 25-26 middle school curriculum guide and high school program of study are on the board agenda this evening for approval under the curriculum and instruction section. Those went through our curriculum council and also through our education and curriculum committees before making it to the board level. The other item we have this evening is we have a presentation. So good evening to the board and the public. Tonight's presentation of this data will be middle of the school year snapshot data presented by our principals. As a reminder, in January, our administrative team presented state and national testing data from the 23-24 school year. We also presented the beginning of the year local assessment results in October for 24-25. Tonight's presentation will focus on the progress made in each school through the middle of the year, including comparisons to where we were at the beginning of the year. At this time, I will turn things over to Principal Schneiderite, who will begin with the data from Peters Elementary School.
Thank you, Dr. Stoker. Good evening to our distinguished board. I'm very excited to present our middle of the year data. So if we can move the slide up, please. First, the data point we're going to be looking at is the DIBELS 8 data, which looks at early literacy at Peters Elementary School. This data is going to look very similar to the data I've been presenting to you for the last 6 years, which was the DIBELS Next data, but there are two differences. First, rather than being 3 categories we've seen in the past, green, yellow, red, there are now 4 categories, and they're called something different. It used to be core support being green, supplemental support being yellow, and intensive support being needed in the red. Now our 4 categories are blue, above benchmark, green, at benchmark, yellow, below benchmark, and red, far below benchmark. So you'll see on the screen those 4 colors represented. What we hope is that as the year goes along, we have more green and blue and less yellow and red. So now looking at the data on the screen, there are 3 rows. The top row being the kindergarten, and you can see in each grade there are 2 lines. The top line being the beginning of the year data, and the line directly below it being the middle of the year data. So we're going to start with kindergarten at the top. In kindergarten, at the beginning of the year, the percentage of students that were below or far below benchmark was 74%. If you remember, we had the conversation. These are students coming into our schools and we haven't taught them anything yet, so we expect that to be quite low, and it was. The middle of the year, the percentage of students that are now below or far below went from 74% to 38%. At the beginning of the year, 26% of kindergarten students were at or above benchmark, and now you can see that students who were at benchmark is 45%, and 17% of students are above benchmark. This is an improvement from the beginning of the year of 36%. On the next row down is the first grade. At first grade, at the beginning of the year, 48% of students were below or far below benchmark, with 52% at or above benchmark, right around the 50-50 level. In the middle of the year, at this time, 38% of students were below or far below benchmark, with 62% being at or above benchmark. This represents a 10% improvement from the beginning of the school year. And on the bottom is second grade. In second grade at the beginning of the year, 53% of students were below or far below benchmark, with 47% at or above benchmark. Again, right around that 50-50 range, although a little bit more red and yellow than green at the beginning. In the middle of the year at this current time, 40% of students were below or far below, with 60% being at or above benchmark. This represents a 13% improvement from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. So in all cases, we see that as we go down in each grade level, there's more green, more blue, and less red and yellow, which is what we hope to see at the middle of a school year, as we've been instructing them since the beginning of the school year. And just to add for everybody, Friday was our Act 80 day. That's the day where all staff come together, staff as well as teachers, support staff, and we work together looking at this data. Now, obviously, I'm presenting to you one bit of data, but we got a chance to really dig deep. One of the things we do during those Act 80 days is we have a chance to investigate this with further reports for the building, but also at reports at the classroom level. So, the point of that is that we examine data of all students within the building, because, we're presenting comprehensive data, but where, the rubber meets the road is where when it comes to students and how we're impacting them on the individual basis. So teachers are now looking at those data, looking at that data. We look at those needs and we plan on how to intervene moving ahead. Next slide, please. This is a middle of the year snapshot via IXL. This is our school-wide math data for the middle of the year. For this data, there are also 4 categories. Above grade level being dark green, on grade level being light green, below grade level being yellow, and far below grade level being that reddish orange. You'll also see that there is a sliver of gray, which represents students who did not yet take the assessment. This happens for a number of reasons. There are some students who simply do not take the assessment due to their individualized needs. Some students, due to some recent illnesses and altered school days, have not yet taken it. However, that's a very small number of students. The data breaks down each grade level and shows where we currently are with our middle of the year math benchmark. I'm going to go into depth into the next few slides, so that'll show you, the very specifics. So if we can move on, please, Dr. Stoker, to the next slide. What I've done in all of these slides is I've taken out the students who did not take the assessment. This will not skew any of the percentages that it gives you, and it gives you the accurate data based on all the students who've taken it. So first, this represents kindergarten. This is the middle of the year benchmark. So in kindergarten, 66.3% at this time are on or above grade level, with 33.7% rating as below grade level. As of right now, none are far below grade level. Likely in kindergarten with our 5 and 6-year-olds, we haven't taught them a lot yet, so I have not a lot of experience. I'm not sure, this is our first year using IXL at this level. I'm not sure if it's expected or unexpected that there's none that are far below level, but my educated guess is that because we've only taught them, 4 months of curriculum, that most students that are struggling are likely just below level because we haven't taught them enough for them to be far below level. There is no comparative data for kindergarten because if you recall at the beginning of the year, we did not give them the beginning of the year math benchmark. This is something that's given on a computer, and we decided, of course, as we have in the past, that we shouldn't bring them into school and within a week give them a Chromebook and expect them to be able to function on that platform. So for the next 2 slides, of course, you will see beginning to middle of the year. So this is our first benchmark for kindergarten. Next slide, please, Dr. Stoker. So as I said, in the next 2 slides, you will see 2 pie charts. The one on the left represents the beginning of the year, and the one on the right represents the middle of the year. In first grade, which is on the screen now, focusing on the right-hand chart, the middle of the year data shows that 61.6% of students were on or above grade level at this time, 30% below grade level, and 8.3% of students far below grade level. From the beginning of the year to the middle of the year, students who were on or above grade level improved by 1.6%. Students who were below grade level improved by 7%. And there were a few more students at this time who were below grade level, that are below grade level now in the middle of the year than were at the beginning of the year. Next slide, please, Dr. Stoker. This is our second grade data. In second grade, the middle of the year data, again looking at the right-hand side of the screen, showed that 60.3% of students were considered on or above grade level, 31.6% below grade level, and 8.1% far below grade level. Looking at a comparison from the left to right, from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year, on or above grade level improved by 5.3%. Students below grade level improved by 0.4%, and students far below grade level improved by 4.9% from the beginning of the year. And that's my final data slide. To give you a little more information about our Act 80 Day on Friday. As a staff, we had a chance to dig into this data even more in a more deep manner, looking again at what the individual student in every classroom is doing. It's interesting to see because when you compare it like this, you might not see a lot of movement. There's a ton of movement. There are students who move and grow towards an area but don't quite make that column move. We have students who move up 2 columns from far below to at benchmark. We do have students regress, and we ask, why did that happen? So we got a chance to dig deep into the individual skills, or as they call them in IXL, the strands, where individual students are excelling and struggling, and we're looking to plan next steps to address those challenges. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Briner at Slatington Elementary School. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am here this evening to present Slatington Elementary School's middle of the year data. Next slide, please. So my first slide is the middle of the year data in math, particularly in IXL. And so this slide reflects the beginning of the year data on the left-hand side in IXL in math in grades 3 through 6, and that was from September of 2024. And on the right-hand side, the middle of the year data, which was from January, February of this year. The top is actually the 2025 data, and in comparison, the bottom piece is from 2024. So we're in a unique situation this year where we weren't last year, because last year was our first year using IXL. This year we can actually look and see where we were a year ago at this same snapshot. In all of the slides, or all the portions of the slides, the different categories fall above the grade level, which is that dark green. On grade level is the kind of lighter green. Below grade level and far below, below grade level is in the yellow, and far below is in the red. And then we have that gray portion, which is not pinpointed, and that's due to absenteeism or a student that might be a special education student that might not be taking the particular snapshot or working in this platform. So from a comparison purpose, where we were last year at this same time in math, we were at 41% above grade level or on grade level during the same snapshot in 2024. This year in 2025, we're at 44% on grade level or above grade level, so a 3% increase from where we were a year ago at this time. Next slide, please. This next slide shows the exact same information, so I'm not going to go over exactly what's up there, but you can see the beginning of the year on the left, and the middle of the year on the top right for this year, and the middle of the year from or on the bottom right from last year. And so in comparison, in ELA, last year at this time we were at 47% above grade level or on grade level, and now we are at 50% above grade level or on grade level. So again, about a 3% difference from a year ago at this snapshot. Next slide, please. So this next piece, what you will see is DIBELS 8 data. So this is new data to Slatington Elementary. This is the first year that we've been doing the DIBELS 8 data. And similar to what you saw in the previous slide, there's movement within the categories, but not necessarily movement from below benchmark to on benchmark. So if you see in third grade and in fifth grade, pretty much our percentages remain the same from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. However, there's movement within. This is showing the above benchmark, at benchmark, below benchmark, and well below benchmark. As Mr. Schneider-Wright said, on Friday we looked at this data in depth. Not just this DIBELS data, the IXL data, and drilled down into those categories. So we've got we were able to kind of look into, all right, who are our kids in each one of these categories? Why are they moving? Why are they not moving? And also looking at our growth. And what was very interesting, it's not in this particular slide, but it was in some of the other data that we looked at, all of our grade levels were growing above the national norm, we found. So, and that includes K through 5, growing above the national norm, and in some grade levels significantly above the national norm. So that is a very promising piece of data that we saw, and we will continue to look at. Additionally, you know, the Act 80 days that we have and these in-service days are very important for us to take the time in, and they're extremely valuable so that we can look at this data, see what's working, what's not. One of the things that we added into our intervention practices moving forward this past Friday was changing how we are using some of the new program and utilizing that during our win period. And that directly came out of looking at this data and identifying ways to move forward to improve our results. So, you know, up there also, we also looked at specifically fourth grade, because fourth grade we saw a difference where there was movement from the below benchmark to the at benchmark. And so we were trying to see why that was specifically in that one grade level versus the other two. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. House.
Can I ask a question
Absolutely.
about Dibbles? So when you do beginning of the year assessments and then you do the middle of the year assessments, is the assessment the same?
No.
So it's as the curriculum progresses, that's why I noticed that we have more students that are struggling at the beginning of the year because the curriculum is advancing and they're obviously not catching up or staying up with the curriculum that is new to them. Does that make sense?
Correct. The middle of the year is more difficult than the beginning.
Than
of
the
the
beginning
year.
of the year.
So it's a moving goalpost.
Okay, because the curriculum should be advancing to different skills, harder skills. And then by doing middle of the year, we could tell, all right, they didn't catch this. So if we don't go back, reteach, redo, relearn, obviously as the next Dibbles comes out at the end of the year, that curriculum's supposed to be full, we're gonna lose more children. Because if they don't have these skills, they're certainly not gonna have those skills.
Correct. Or we're not growing. What we really looked at Friday was, okay, why are we not growing them at the level in which we need to be growing them?
Correct.
Right. So we were happy with the level of growth that we were seeing because the number of students that we're growing, but why are they not growing enough?
Right.
And so we looked at that and we're examining why that is.
Yeah, we just see the red bars. We don't see all the other
Yep.
deep dives. So that's why I was asking. Thank you.
You're welcome.
To that point, Mr. Kern and others, IXL will do the same thing. So for example, someone who's rated on grade level on IXL, at the beginning of the school year, let's say it's a 7th grader, IXL uses a 100-point scale. They'll be rated at a 700. Right now, they'd be rated at about a 750, a 755 to be on grade level. So
Okay.
moving goalposts is a perfect way to say it, so that will adjust as we look at the middle school data too. So jumping into the middle school data, and good evening everyone, I'm sorry. This will show the IXL math data. The middle school has conducted 3 benchmark assessments or snapshots since the start of the year. We complete a snapshot at the beginning of the year and then one at the end of each marking period. So to date, we have done 3 of them, September, November, and then early February. IXL is also used routinely at the middle school as part of general updates and as an instructional support assignment that the teachers will use. So it's consistently updated in real time. The snapshots are just that, they're specific points throughout the school year. So on the November and February updates, we did see some improvements in the number of students leaving the far below category and below grade level proficiency categories. But most of our growth is found within each proficiency category. For example, many students found to be below grade level may still be in that category, but they have made significant gains. So students in the yellow may still be yellow, they're just a higher degree of that, if that makes sense, because that yellow band covers a lot of territory. So for tonight's presentation, Mr. Williams and I looked through the student data on a class-by-class basis. IXL will give us a growth score that indicates where students should be if they are on pace to make a full year's progress by the end of the course. We have averaged those scores for each of our math classes, and I think that will give us a better insight into how we're doing at the middle school right now. So presently in 7th grade, we are running 6 sections of mathematics. Every single class, 6 for 6, is showing growth and improvement. 1 class is right at the expected level. 2 classes are showing growth higher than the expected level, about 3/4 of a year's worth of improvement already at this point. 2 classes are below the expected level, but very close to where they need to be. And then there's 1 class that is not where it needs to be at a more considerable level. In 8th grade, we're also running 6 sections. And again, every section is showing growth. 1 class is showing growth higher than that expected level, again, by about the equivalent of a full marking period. 3 classes are right where they need to be, even a little bit above, slightly above. 2 classes are a little bit below, but only by a small margin, and there were no classes that had that more considerable margin of where they should be. To better support students in math, we routinely at the middle school run enrichment and remediation courses built into our schedule each marking period. Presently, we're also running a PSSA prep group, which is identified students based on what we call bubble students. We use our PVAS system to kind of show kids that have a good likelihood of emerging into a different level of proficiency, and we give them some targeted supports. Each one of our enrichment and remediation groups that we've run so far has shown considerable growth. For example, 4 of the 6 have shown more growth than was expected for the time that they were in that remediation class. Next slide, please. Now, this slide will show our ELA data in the same format. The schedule for taking these assessments was exactly the same as what you saw for math. As with math, we are showing fewer students in the far below category, and we're seeing the most growth in that category, more kids moving ahead. Following how we look at the data for math, Mr. Williams and I did examine on a student-by-student basis and class-by-class basis how students are growing. So in 7th grade, as a class overview, we're running 7 sections in 7th grade ELA. 7 for 7 are showing positive growth. 2 classes are growing at the rate that is expected. 3 classes are showing growth at a higher level than what is typically expected, almost by a full marking period, which is excellent. And there's only 1 class that's showing growth below where we would anticipate. In 8th grade, again running 7 sections, all 7 sections showing growth in 8th grade. 3 of those classes are showing higher than the expected level by, again, about a full marking period. And then the others are all right where they are expected to be. We have no sections there that are kind of below that mark. We are also seeing positive outcomes in ELA enrichment and remediation. So students who have been enrolled in one of these sections are meeting or exceeding the growth expectations as determined by IXL. In some cases, the students who went into our ELA enrichment remediation are already showing 1 full year's worth of growth at this point. So the Tier 1 instruction they're getting as part of the class, plus some enrichment remediation, has already shown 1 year's worth of growth by February, which is good. We had 2 sections in that area. At our most recent Act 80 Day, which was last week, the middle school spent time working both as a full faculty and by individual departments looking at this data. We took time to compare it to teacher grade books to see how those things went together, and we discussed general strengths and weaknesses in academic performance. In departments, teachers were able to dig a little bit deeper into their specific data in IXL and collaborate to plan for needed adjustments. So in mathematics, we identified several standards that's best labeled numbers and operations. IXL will categorize, very much like we have standards written into our curriculum, what skills need the most work. In ELA, what's coming up more common than the others are things like inference making when you're reading, coming to conclusions, and synthesizing key details in a text. So we also talked about how those skills can be reinforced across different departments, across different content areas, not solely relying on our math and ELA teachers. Kind of like we're all in this together, as it should be. Teachers explored ways to reinforce the standards no matter what they taught. They had discussions about recent and forthcoming curriculum changes that will help us to address any of the identified gaps in our current programs. For example, we are adopting the Amplify curriculum in ELA, so teachers were able to kind of compare this data and look where Amplify can help us meet some of those gaps. Science did the same thing, and mathematics also had that discussion. I'll take any questions. Hearing none, I'll turn things over to Dr. Bali.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you again. All right, we're going to review our high school data. We'll look similar to the graphs up here that Mr. Hauser had. We'll first look at our algebra data for the fall, throughout the fall and then up until the middle of the year. All right, so out of our students that were tested, you see in our first administration, which was back really the first week of September, when we had the students, we were about 20% on or above grade level in algebra. These are the students that did just take the Algebra Keystone in the winter. So these are the students that we're monitoring up there. So 20% of those students were on or above grade level as determined by the IXL benchmark. That was the first one that was administered. By the third administration of that in January, we jumped up to 47% were on or above grade level in algebra. So we went from 20% to about 47%. Next slide, please. All right, in this slide, we're using the same tool, IXL, but this is tracking and looking at the data of our ELA literature Keystone testers. So in the beginning, 31% of our students were on or above grade level when the first benchmark was administered back in the first week of September. By the third administration of the assessment, about 48% were on or above grade level in literature. Next slide, please. So we do not use IXL because it's really in the infancy phases, stages for biology. So the benchmarking tool that we are using right now is CDT. It is the same, product that, same product that is made, who makes the Keystone test. So, you look at that and it's just a great tool to predict where our kids are going to be. So if you look, when we first administered it, only 13% of our students were on or above grade level back the first week of September when we gave that assessment. By the third administration, about 41% were on or above grade level in biology. So those were our 3 subject areas and the 2 tools that we use to gauge where our students are and the progress they're making. I think Mr. Hauser made a great point. This does show when students jump from one band to another, but what it doesn't show is when they move. So you have kids, when you really look deeply at the data, which is what the teachers did on Friday, and really have been doing at all of our PD sessions throughout the year, who are those kids maybe that aren't captured on here that are moving from on to above or below to on, but those kids who have made it from here in the red to here in the red and are just on the cusp of being on grade level. So, sometimes when you look at these graphs, it's a little deceiving because, you want to see percentages at 70 and 80%, but you sometimes don't always get a clear picture of the students that are making huge gains and huge progress, which is what, I know we're seeing across all schools. I did want to share an example, because we do really treasure the time that we're given together as departments, and as a staff, and we just had a day like that on Friday. And I wanted to share, we did something similar at the high school that Mr. Hauser did at the middle school. We started together as a team and really looked at, for us it was easy because we have a lot of new initiatives. We really looked at our lunch and learn data, how many less students are failing courses this year than they were last year, a significant number. We attribute a lot of that to Learn. To a lot of the Learn sessions, to the to the work that the teachers and the kids are doing when they show up and they're working in the halls and they're doing great things. So, we looked at a lot of that type of data. But then we also dove into, what is it as a department, and I'm going to use literature, ELA as an example. What is it as ELA that we're seeing across the board that we're doing really, really well, but then that we're really struggling with as a department? And they identified common themes within departments, from math to ELA to science to the arts to technology, even though theirs are a little more project-based data rather than data like this. But, for literature and for English, as an example, they identified, there were 3 major gaps in their data: idea development, organization when the kids are writing, and being able to go back and find text evidence. So guess what? Now in their practice, they're going to attack those 3 areas, and they're going to do it in a very strategic way. Modeling, they're going to model for kids. This is what a 4 looks like. This is what a 1 looks like. This is what a 3 looks like. Best practice has always told us to do that. They're going to consistently do that on a daily basis in their 86-minute blocks. They're going to provide targeted feedback. They're going to sit with kids, and they're going to talk about, how do we get this to a 4? What can we do to make this a better written response? And then, some of the research that shows the best teaching is when kids are teaching each other and learning from each other. So peer review of their own writing. So things like that. So we didn't just want to say, yeah, our kids are doing great here and weak here, and we're gonna, how are you gonna tackle this? I want a specific plan by department which shows what you're going to do in your 86-minute block every day. So that time was used. It was a powerful time together, and then they did that as a department, and they did that individually as a teacher. Now, what am I going to do in my own classroom? So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we did at our in-service on Friday. It is about looking at data, but then it's more about what are we going to do about it. It's more about the actions. So thank you very much, Dr. Stover. Thank you, everybody, if you have any questions. Okay.
So thank you. That is our presentation for this evening. We'll be back with end of the year test data. Typically we do that around June. So once we have all of our data results in from all of the different levels and assessments that we give, we'll be back to the board level for a presentation at the end of the year. Thank you. That's my report.
Well done. Thank you, Dr. Stoker. Ms. Malataris.
Thank you, President Green. Last Tuesday, February 4th, the governor presented his budget for the 25-26 fiscal year. I'm just going to give you some highlights on what Northern Lehigh could see in his budget if it is passed as presented. Basic ed funding, we would receive an additional $276,000 in revenue. Ready to Learn block grant, we'd be looking at an additional $24,000. Tax equity supplement, that is flat funded this year. And if you remember that, we just passed a resolution last month that we were going to use that to offset our debt service payment. Special education funding will receive an additional $81,000 in revenue next year if the budget is passed as presented by Governor Shapiro. Some additional highlights, he is still recommending funding of the PCCD for safe schools initiatives. Cyber charter school funding, he is looking at capping cyber charter school funding at $8,000 per student. This is an initiative he tried to pass last year, but it did fall short. But he has brought it back into his budget again this year. And Homestead Farmstead, last year is the first year that Homestead Farmstead received a significant amount of money in funding that program, which comes from the tax revenue gambling in Pennsylvania. This year, he is recommending again another $1 billion to be put into that, and that could be on a minimum of about $160 per resident that qualifies for Homestead Farmstead, and that will basically differ on school districts based on how many members within your community actually apply and are approved for Homestead Farmstead. So although the state budget is looking a little more favorable for Northern Lehigh. We always have to keep in our back of our mind that we do have the federal regulations, and we're not sure what's happening federally. If any of those federal initiatives for Title I grants and Title I funding goes away, along with IDA funding that we receive from the IU, Northern Lehigh receives approximately $900,000 a year in federal funding. If federal funding goes away, we are going to be short $900,000 in our budget, which is used to pay teacher salaries. 99% of that money goes to teacher salaries, teachers and paraprofessionals. So just keep that in mind. In total, state budget for Northern Lehigh, we're looking at about $381,000 in additional revenue if that budget passes as the governor did present it last Tuesday. Other than that, that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for business office? Anyone? No? We'll turn it over to the superintendent, Dr. Link.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Good evening, everyone. I want to take a moment to recognize and express our deepest appreciation for our incredible school counselors. During National School Counselor Appreciation Week, which was actually last week, we acknowledge the invaluable role they play in supporting our students' academic success, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Our amazing school counselors are Mrs. Kelly Cromer at Peters Elementary, Mrs. Suzanne Mangle at Slatington Elementary, Mrs. Maggie Schaefer at Northern Lehigh Middle School, and Mrs. Allison Crucial and Mrs. Raquel Hoffert, both at Northern Lehigh High School. We thank them all for the work that they do supporting our students, their colleagues, our students' families. They really go above and beyond ensuring that our students have the best chance at success. I also want to take a moment to recognize and sincerely thank our incredible food services team led by Mrs. Nicole Fink here for Food Services Appreciation Week, which was also last week. Each day they work tirelessly to ensure that our students receive nutritious, delicious meals that fuel both their learning and well-being. Their dedication goes beyond just serving food. They create a welcoming environment, provide kindness with the meals that they serve, and play a vital role in the success of our students. Thank you to our entire food services department. Recently, several Northern Lehigh High School students who attend LCTI achieved outstanding results in the Skills USA competition, which Mr. Fedorcha had mentioned earlier, and they will advance to the next level of competition. Skills USA is a national organization that empowers students to become world-class workers, leaders, and responsible citizens. It focuses on fostering skilled professionals through competitions that challenge students to demonstrate excellence in their technical and leadership skills. Congratulations to the following winners. Gage Tessitore took first place in electronics technology, specifically electronics technology and nano programs. Jonathan Erkinger, first place in power equipment technology, specifically small engines and recreational vehicle program. Seth Winch took second place in the Teams Work competition, which is actually a Teams event for automated industrial technology. And Gage Simpson, also second place in another team competition for the carpentry program. So congratulations to them. We wish them best of luck as they go to Hershey. As Mr. Fedorcha mentioned, we've recently had a national Skills USA champion. We hope that some of these students are also available to are able to advance through states and make their way to the national competition again this year. The county band concert is scheduled for this Saturday, February 15th at 2 p.m. at Whitehall High School. Snow date is February 16th at 2 p.m. This year we have Reese Johnson representing Northern Lehigh School District on the trumpet, Noah Stetler also on the trumpet, Evan Gurman on the alto saxophone, Logan Vastias on the alto saxophone, and Aiden Rudolph on the baritone. So congratulations to our Northern Lehigh students for their selection to represent in this year's County Honors Band concert. And that concludes my report, sir.
Thank you. Questions for Dr. Link? Anyone? No? Okay, an executive session was held at 6 p.m. this evening in the Administration Building Boardroom. We talked about negotiations and some personnel items. Okay, getting on to the agenda now, we have personnel items A through, oh my goodness, page 92, whatever it is, A through, J. Is that the last one? I. J, okay, J on the next one. Items A through J. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Fedorch, is there a second? Second down here? Thank you, Bob. Any questions on the personnel items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And so ordered. A couple of policy items again there. You want to read all these for us, Dr. Stoker, while we're here? Or is there a motion to approve the policy items?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Question on the policies? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have conferences, item A and B. Motion to approve conferences.
So moved.
Thank you, Gary. Second?
Second.
Ted, thank you. Questions on the conferences? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And so ordered. Curriculum and instruction, we have items A through D. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Motion? That was Chad, right?
No.
No, that was Gary, I'm sorry.
And
A
Rhonda.
second.
And second back here, okay, you got it, thank you.
Give this one down here.
Questions on curriculum and instruction? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And so ordered. I have nothing under old business. Under new business, we'll take item A. Recommendation of Buildings and Grounds Committee. Is there a motion to approve items A, or item A, excuse me?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second? Any questions on that item? I think that's a pretty good event from everything I hear, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you. If there are no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Then so ordered. We now need to elect a member to the CLIU Board of Directors. I think that's a 3-year term, is that right? Yep, 3-year term. Are there any nominations to serve in that position?
Cusack to that position, please.
I'll second.
Technically, we don't need a second, but I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Thank you. Take all you can get.
Why
Go
is she
for it,
nudging
Gail.
me? I don't know what that is.
Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to move nominations be closed.
Motion by Mr. Fedorcha to close nominations. We do need a second for that.
I'll second that.
There you go.
I'll third that.
All right, do we have a fourth? Anyway, all those in favor of closing nominations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And nominations are closed, since we only have one nomination, and this might be a little redundant. Will the secretary cast a unanimous ballot for the secretary to participate in that? Congratulations, Gail, you'll be our representative for 3 more years. And I've heard a couple of good things from a couple of people, that you did a pretty nice job there, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, under financial, we have items A through L. Is there a motion to approve the financial items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. A lot of items there. Any questions? Our policy says that if it's a unanimous vote, it's the same as a voice vote. So in case some of those budgets are looking for a voice vote, it would be unanimous vote. We don't have to go aye, and do all that stuff, okay? Just so everybody understands that. So all those in favor of approving the financial items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And so ordered. Under legal, 2 expulsion hearings. Is there a motion to approve the expulsion hearings?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. You got it? We cannot discuss that item in public or private at this point in time, so all those in favor of approving the expulsions, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And so ordered. Slayton from Slayton Public Library report, attachment 26. Couple information items, minutes of Lehigh Carbon Community College, Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit, and LCTI. Is there any other information? Anyone? Any guests that would like to be recognized this evening? No? Okay, we'll take care of that. And any other business that needs to be attended to? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion, second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of adjourn, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we're done here.
I'm so mad.